am super excited to have with us today the gentleman behind Tasti-Lee Tomatoes and Bejo Seeds. I'm excited because as I started the show telling you I love tomatoes, and one of the biggest challenges is finding tomatoes that actually taste like tomatoes. They all kind of have no taste at all. And when I discovered Tasti-Lee Tomatoes a few years ago, I have remained super loyal because I eat them like an apple at my desk. It kind of freaks everybody out, but I love tomatoes, and I like a good tasting tomato. So I'd like to welcome to Mom Talk Radio, Jeff Trickett. He is in charge of sales and marketing for Bejo Seeds, which is the seeds behind Tasti-Lee Tomatoes. So welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Maria. Glad to be here.
I always wonder this when I'm eating one of your tomatoes, like how do you make them have a flavor when so many other tomatoes just have no flavor?
Well, part of it is in the breeding. I think most people think of breeding when they think of animal husbandry, but actually with plants and vegetables, there's a very significant breeding effort that goes on, and basically they're crossing different varieties of tomatoes together, and then they produce different varieties by crossing the different ones. And what happened was it took over 10 years, but Dr. J. Scott from the University of Florida was on a mission to create a better-tasting tomato. And so he spent, as I said, about 10 years crossing different types of tomatoes until he finally came up with Tasti-Lee. He used an all-natural process of just crossing the plants, pollinating, cross-pollinating plants. There's no GMO involved in Tasti-Lee. But he really hit on something, and we worked with him for a while when he was doing this. And so when the product became available to license, Bejo Seeds went ahead and licensed the tomato for worldwide, really, for a both production of the seed as well as a marketing program for the brand for Tasti-Lee Tomatoes.
Is that how you also have a significantly higher level of lycopene as well because of that breeding?
Yeah, when you cross different varieties that have different traits, you can sometimes achieve those types of attributes, and so it is a very high lycopene tomato. We advertise up to 50%, but in reality, we average 70 to 80% more lycopene. And at times, we've tested over 100% more lycopene. So we know it's consistently higher lycopene tomato. It has what they call the crimson gene, which gives it that deep red color. Wonderful texture on the inside. And one of the other interesting attributes is that you can take a fully ripe Tasti-Lee and you can put it on your kitchen counter. And maybe you've experienced this, but you can put it on your kitchen counter and come back to it several weeks later, and it's still firm to eat. It doesn't melt away and turn into tomato sauce. It's just the nature of the varieties that Jay worked with. Some people have described it as lightning hitting in the same place 3 times in a row. It's very rare to achieve all the different attributes that Tasti-Lee has in a variety. It's very difficult to do that. Maybe it's part luck, but I'm sure it's part skill from the breeder standpoint.
Right.
And he was able to produce this wonderful tomato that tastes so good. It tastes like a garden fresh tomato that's picked ripe out of your garden.
So where are we supposed to store tomatoes? So we buy our Tasti-Lee tomatoes at the grocery store. When we bring them home, are we supposed to leave them out on the counter or put them in the refrigerator?
Definitely out on the counter. When you refrigerate tomatoes, they experience what we call chilling injury. And what will happen is it'll slowly take all the taste away from the tomato. So it's really best to store your tomatoes at room temperature on the counter.
I know there's also something about being ripened on the vine, and your tomatoes are ripened on the vine. What difference does that make?
The produce industry, for a long time, most of the focus has been on what we call grower and retailer attributes. And what they're looking for, obviously, is products that they can grow and ship long distances and that they don't go bad on them and so forth. So a lot of tomatoes are picked green and they're hard as a rock, and that way they can be handled and stored and shipped and so forth. But Tasti-Lee is only picked when it achieves at least a certain level of color. It may not be fully ripe, but it's definitely pink and already coloring up, and it's red on the inside. And by doing that, that's part of what gives it that added flavor. And we can get away with that because we know, as I said earlier, that Tasti-Lee will hold its firmness for a long time, even after it reaches full color. So that unique attribute of Tasti-Lee allows us to let it ripen on the vine before we harvest it and then ship it to the stores.
If you don't find Tasti-Lee tomatoes in the store that you're at, just ask the produce manager. You can visit the Tasti-Lee website at tasty-lee.com, and I have a link on Mom Talk Radio, or you can follow me on Twitter where I also will tweet it out. But thank you, Jeff, so much. And from all of my taste buds, I want to thank you for the great Tasti-Lee tomatoes that you provide me. So thanks, Jeff, and thank you for joining the show. We'll see you next time.